Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethee.
Your host, Sethee.
And stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we? So welcome to Elevated Grapes, and I am your host, Sethee.
And stylist Rashi Bindra.
So we're really thrilled today to have fashion directors Mario Sisneros and Joseph Tang. Mario oversees men's fashion and Joseph oversees women's fashion at Canada's leading fashion retailer, Holt Renfrew. So gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Elevated Grapes.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So it's so exciting to have you guys on this podcast, and let's just jump right in because so much has happened. So I'm very curious to know that, since the whole world pandemic has shook all the industries, and it has restructured the way fashion operates, as one of Canada's leading fashion retailers, how has the pandemic impacted North America retail compared to Europe?
I'll start off with that. So, I think, the pandemic has been tremendously difficult, and, we feel, our heart goes out to anyone that's lost anyone. And I think the main thing though for us in retail is that we're always taught in our careers to be very adaptable. And so the interesting thing is that we've had to pivot very fast, not only in strategy, but in our day-to-day functions. And the interesting thing is that, the pandemic has really accelerated a lot of trends that we were already seeing previously, such as diversity and inclusion, sustainability, and it's made these, just accelerate at a much faster level. I think the thing is, it's really brought not only our team together, and I know Joseph can speak to this as well, but it's really brought, our communities together. I think people are shopping local, and they really have this really hyper-local energy. And I think there's this altruist sense that's happening now, not only in fashion, but around the world, about people supporting their local communities.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think that through all this, we're also challenged in a way to how do we reset the norms of operating and the processes of, the buying cycle and the marketing and the campaign and the photo shoot cycle that our office is involved in has really challenged us to think more about how we approach the season and how we interact with our different vendor partners and also with our colleagues in the office. It's been a great learning just to open up more points of communication between the other teams and just figure out new ways to do things. The fashion cycle has been the same for decades, right? So I think it's been such a great, the positive thing about it all of it is it's been a great way for us to really challenge ourselves to think about the new way of how fashion operates across all levels, not just, fashion office, but it's, through supply chain, through buying, through marketing, through on the floor retail. So when we look at how it's really affected North America and Canada specifically, to Mara's point, it is a lot about more localized and celebrating, the country we live in. But I think when you look at places like Europe, they're already so different in the way that their kind of processes and their structures are operating on. I think that Europe is, for being in Europe firsthand during the pandemic, when it first kind of started, you kind of see how fast they were able to change and adapt. And I think that's something that carries well on to every other country that's been through all this as well. So I would say in Europe, it is probably, they're a little bit more ahead just because they've got a better, handle of how the pandemic is happening there. But I don't think you can really compare them both because it's so case specific by each country.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing that we're really excited to see though, just, specifically with our stores as they reopened, the teams did it with such care and, with a huge team, we all partnered together, all as stakeholders in the business. And really ideated and came up with a strategy that was really put the customer at the focus of how to keep them safe and how to really have them enjoy their shopping experience. And what we've seen is they've really, our traffic is, a little bit down to last year, and I think everyone's is, but we're really driving, significant growth in some businesses, and we're really, really excited to see that customers feel safe, and that, retail for them is, like that retail therapy. It's that escape for them. So, to have that oasis, and us, helping to participate in people's happiness during this pandemic, I think is, one bright spot for us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So a question I have, and I think, this has been a sort of a topic of conversation with our various guests. The thought process is right now, spending on fashion is not necessarily the foremost thought in most people's minds. We got to think about bills. We got to think about, day-to-day necessities and, safety measures and those sort of things. So have you guys found that and as you mentioned, Mario, you talked about, it's almost like therapy. It's a release given everything that's going on. So you guys finding that there are your regular shoppers and folks in the fashion space coming in and looking for items and helping to change their wardrobe and given the current situation?
Well, I mean, I can speak to the men's business. It's really, we're doing really well compared to last year, and
Very
I think
nice.
we're really excited because I think, being that restaurants and a lot of those, service elements of the economy are closed, it really provides retail to be that space, that experience that people can go to have a safe experience. So
Right.
for us, we're seeing that we really retained a lot of our core customers throughout the pandemic. But, with the online vehicle, we were also able to acquire new customers and communicate with them in a new way. So that for us, was a really exciting bright spot to, kind of create that full omni-channel experience with a lot of our customers and have that further reach and further engagement with them.
Yeah, I also think, I had a lot of our customers being like, when can I get my skincare cream? And when can I get my, my, my moisturizer? And I think, our store doesn't just sell, the Gucci's and the Fendi's and the Pradas of the world. We definitely do have a lot of those everyday essentials that's in, both the men's and the female's customers' wardrobe, from when they get up to go to the bathroom to when they get dressed to go out for the day. So to Mara's point, we did see, a resurgence of our e-commerce, and I think it allowed the customers to explore their shopping experience in a different way that may not be as used to it, because a lot of our customers love the experience of coming into the store. But I do think we're seeing customers still covet some of those, really covetable items through fashion. I think it's a way for them to still allow them to hold and touch those great, items that are just pretty to look at, and gives them inspiration of something that they're maybe hopeful one day she'll be able to wear that, glitzy Manolo shoe, or carry that great bag that she's wanted for so long.
Right.
And I mean, we've been seeing, just from our world, we've seen a big lift in, obviously casual wear.
Right.
Everyone's been buying tons and tons of sweatsuits. Skincare has been great for us, and footwear. Surprisingly, no one has anywhere to go, but all, footwear is such a great business right now. I guess it's, people like, to Joseph's point, I think they're aspirationally shopping for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Shoes definitely make people happy.
Exactly.
Yes.
I can see shoe sales continuing without any incident. So you talked about e-commerce being sort of a bit of a change in direction. I wouldn't say it wasn't there before, but there's more acceptance of e-commerce. So talk to us about that from the standpoint of the product life cycle before and after the pandemic.
So I used to be a buyer at Holt Renfrew. I used to buy for the men's designer. And I mean, I was always, when I would have my open to buy and I would go into, there's basically two deliveries in each season. There's a pre-fall, or pre-spring, and then there's a main runway delivery. And sometimes there's a third for some vendors. But, you get a significant amount of your receipts in, your pre-collections. So in November, you're getting shipped all of these shorts that are supposed to last all the way until May. It doesn't even get cold enough in May to wear shorts here in Canada, and in some climates, in some temperate climates, So, you're marking them down. You don't really get, the true full price sell through. So your product life cycle is a little bit misaligned with the customer's end usage. And so, something that we've experienced, and I know Joseph is experiencing it in women's wear, is a lot of the designers such as Puig Group, which is, owns Dries Van Noten, and a lot of the other big designers and our parent company, Selfridges, all signed a pledge that they were going to extend the product life cycles to be more in line with the customer's end usage. So instead of marking down in, May, we're going to mark down in July. Instead of marking down products in Black Friday, we're going to extend those sales until January. So I think this gives, that more wear now factor. It's more in line with how the customer wears the product. And also it really just optimizes, your full price sell through, which really helps all of these brands' equity. I think no one wants to be on a markdown rack, and I think that definitely, for some of our vendor partners, that's something no one wants to be on. So, we're excited about the new future and about really, having the customer in the center of our mind, not just, all this newness, new all the time.
Yeah, I think to further that point too, it's kind of unprecedented for, a lot of these major retailers to kind of put a halt on the traditional like markdown cycle, and seeing firsthand us not break designer sale till July was like, I can't believe this is happening, because this is something the industry talks about but never actually actions. So it's been really great to kind of think more, again, customer first, what are they wearing during this time period? So, normally when we mark down all those like shorts and sandals, we had amazing shorts and sandals for sale throughout the summer months before they all got, taken away in the markdowns. And I think as we enter into the buying season virtually, we're definitely seeing a lot of the designers kind of change the way they're designing collections to be more accommodating of this cycle. And it's more about giving you deliveries that are, wear now when they come in store versus, the very old regimented buying cycle of, when spring comes in the middle of winter. So we're definitely, it's not going to happen overnight. I definitely don't think, all the problems and all of the buying cycles will change in overnight. But I also think something with the pandemic that has caused us all to take a step back and think about is, we are also, designers are fueling out collections left, right, and center. But by doing that, you're also asking editors, stylists, buyers, fashion directors to travel and see these collections. So I think, taking a step back to say, like, do we actually really need to be looking at this much product? Because it doesn't even allow the customers to, marinate on what is actually coming in the store, because, the next time she comes in, there's a whole new collection, a whole new thing that's coming up. So we're in the middle of it right now from, a buying perspective. And I'm really interested to see how this upcoming women's, quote unquote fashion week is going to unfold in the next couple of weeks. But I think it is definitely a big learning on all parts.
And you know what? Touching from that point, for Holt Renfrew specifically, and with your experience, Joseph and Mario, how has the buying strategy, maybe altered or changed? Because even the fashion weeks have been a little bit different, or it has adapted to the whole, COVID situation as well.
I think I can just give you, some personal experience of, I was in the middle of market in Europe back in March, and I was in Paris, ready for the buying team to come, and then we get a notification saying we're all going home, no one's traveling. And I think right then and there, you kind of have to make that decision of, what are you going to do? How are you going to finish the season when you can't buy in person? I think we'll touch on a little bit of this and some of the other points later on, but I think it really was, to Mario's point at the beginning, like how adaptive we have to be in the situation and how you are able to buy for a season without seeing the collection. And I think that was a little hard to digest at first. I remember being in Paris and them being like, you're gonna have to walk through all the collections and take pictures for all the buyers in 3 days. and then
Wow.
and then you kind of have that moment again where it's like, do we need to see everything? Does everything need to be, you know, a physical experience? And I think that, you know, going into the market appointments moving forward is you really think about exactly what does the customer need and want versus like, what do you need to fill the store with? And I think that was a really great learning for us to take away from with everything happening with the pandemic. And then, I mean, Mario can speak firsthand as he's kind of fully completed a season virtually.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing though about how we've adapted just, you know, from a creative office is, you know, how we even message, you know, our call to action and how to shop with the customers. We've always, you know, leveraged these hallmark holidays like back to school or, you know, all of these occasions as like how, you know, refresh your wardrobe for January. And we're sort of now reconsidering all of those
Exactly.
propositions. And now,
Exactly.
you know, for us, it's about, you know, it's about having, you know, stories that are more lifestyle that are in your cottage or, you know, these stories that really pivot. You know, like we're having a hiking expedition for fall where it's outdoor. So I think we've really just had to be very adaptable, and even our messaging strategy and our production plans of how we're messaging products, how we're showcasing it, the models we're showcasing it on. And I think just really, again, just thinking about the customer and being very customer centric during this time, you know, we want to be mindful and appropriate, and you know, not be tone deaf, especially because I think that's one thing that can be a risk for, you know, a lot of fashion people at this time. And I think we just want to add, you know, we want to provide products that just make people happy and they can use them and have you know, it's an appropriate end usage for them, right? And so we're seeing a lot of people going to their cottage. We're seeing a lot of people escape, and I think, you know, we're really happy about the way we position some of our stories moving forward for fall, and I think they'll be well received, hopefully.
I just want to add in on a personal note, being, you know, as a fashion person, the ability to go back into a store and see new clothes that I have not seen before. It's, you know, we're getting fresh fall deliveries for the season, and I'm personally like so torn because I'm like, I need all this stuff in my life. Like, I need to fill my wardrobe up. I want these new shoes, but I'm like, I have been wearing sweatpants for the past 6 months.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
size am I anymore?
Absolutely.
I've been
So
going
I
through that
think,
as well.
yeah, I
Question in
think
everyone's mind: what size am I?
exactly. I think all of us are just super excited to thrive off, you know, new things, and it's not just within fashion. It's within tech. It's within food. It's within, you know, all different industries that are people just want. At the end of the day, if you're at home, you still want to do something. You still want to be able to fill your day-to-day life and what our customer needs with something that's going to excite them and going to make them want to buy something.
And I think something that's pretty interesting, we've been seeing a trend that I think was accelerated from, you know, last holiday. There was a survey that was from the UK that was saying millennials, 62% of them wanted to decrease their investment in fast fashion for this upcoming holiday. And so I think there's this idea of slow fashion, about buying things, you know, that are classic, that, you know, are timeless and, you know, will stand the test of time for, you know, 5 to 10 seasons. And, you know, these items that you can take out of your closet that just bring you tons of joy.
So to further that point, Mario, that's an interesting point that's come up a couple of times in our conversations as well. This shift from fast fashion to purchasing staple items, things that are a little more long lasting and will be in your wardrobe for some time. So when you, just with respect to Digital Fashion Week, is that the kind of things that you guys were seeing there, and what is your perspective from being a buyer with respect to what you're seeing there and what's going on in the retail world?
So, I mean, I really want to hand it to all the designers. A lot of our Joseph and I were speaking about this earlier, what a task it must have been for them to onboard these, an entire catalog in a showroom onto a virtual platform within
Absolutely.
weeks in a pandemic, all working remotely. I think it really demonstrates the collaboration that a lot of our vendor partners really have. I think what we saw, was a big trend was this, core updates. Definitely tons of, I think we saw a lot of tailoring in menswear, but it's really in this new proposition with feather light fabrications, a more relaxed silhouette, softer shoulders. I think we're seeing, comfort really being key. We're seeing a lot of sport inspired silhouettes, athleisure, but all with really luxe fabrications like wools and mohairs. So I think we're really definitely seeing that designers are shifting into more practical designs. But I definitely, there was tons of novelty and newness in other aspects too. There's that idea of escape, especially from, almost to California with, lots of skate inspired designs, tons of vacation prints and bright florals that, just really can take someone to a different place. So I think there's that balance that I think the designers really showcased, especially from the digital markets in spring 21.
I'm all for florals.
Yeah, he is. He actually is.
Love that. I have
Florals are
to
everything.
say from, just being with our role where we can kind of pop into different market appointments with the buyers, like it's one thing that I will say that our merchants do really well is they challenge the team on like, what does this product mean? And is this something that the customer is actually going to want to wear? And I've had a lot of conversations and dialogue with our merchant teams because, we think of it from a very aspirational and creative and editorial perspective sometimes. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, okay, like, where is she going to wear this sparkly dress? I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. But it's been great to have those conversations and to again, like, think about the season and the product that you're looking at more so in the lens of the customer more than ever, and being able to take a lot of the data that we're getting from our online editorials and our online sales and looking in the comparisons with in store and how we can even offer the customer more product and more pieces or brands that they're asking for. So I think, it was really great to see how a lot of the designers adapted to the changing needs of the customer. You definitely saw, some brands who are very much known for, evening wear or cocktail changed a lot of their collections to more, elevated tops or pieces that the customer may just use for like a Zoom wardrobe. But then you did have a handful of designers that you kind of left the appointment and you were like, well, where is she going in that? And and is she going to be spending that much money? It's like, so it's been a great experience. And I think to what Mario was saying, how a lot of the designers created different portals to view the collections. Just you get some more insight we usually travel for 3 weeks at a time, going to showroom between shows and walkthroughs with designers. And it was really interesting to navigate through the season, at home on your iPad. And I think a lot of designers that are really good at allowing you to enter into their workspace when you go in person. And I like to use Brunello Cucinelli as an example because you go into this beautiful, like, historic landmark in Milan, and Mr. Cucinelli welcomes you, and there's pasta and there's all this amazing food with the most beautiful clothes ever, and he walks you through the collection. And you kind of have to say, we kind of had to now take that, experiential aspect of the atmosphere that the designers are creating and do it digitally. So some designers were able to create, different online portals. I had a showroom for Ghani where they have like a secret password, and then there's like a soundtrack that you listen to when you look at the collection, and there's different models that move to the different looks that you're looking at to buy. I've had another designer, Acris, who created a one-person fashion show, and then the designer walks you through the collection as the model with a mask walks through a basically white room that is rigged up in a way that allows for us to see the product, but also the team in Switzerland to be fully social distanced. So I think it's only going to evolve from here, and with digital fashion, with Fashion Week happening again in a couple of weeks, some shows are going to happen and some won't. And I think it's okay. The blend of how it's all going to unravel and go on for the next couple of seasons is going to be interesting. I will say, I think everyone takes this first season as their like benchmark, and now everyone's trying to one up each other. So,
Yeah.
so I think for the designers that, you know, weren't maybe the number one virtual portal of showcasing the collection, I think they kind of have their ears with the other designers, seeing what they're doing and trying to one up each other, because that's what they all do. It's all competition to see who can be the best.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's
Even
some really
like
creative
at a basic
ideas.
runway show, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
I thought it was pretty interesting though. Some of the designers like Prada that, you know, had videos and they collaborated with different artists. So you could really see, you know, the mood of each merchandising story. And I thought that was a great way to really pivot to this experience, because, you know, a lot of it for us is really about getting that mood and feeling when you're in a showroom and you can see like the breadth of someone's creativity in one room. It really takes you somewhere. You can see the color stories, you can see the hero products, you can see all of those different elements that are going to really build that beautiful assortment. And for us, you know, I think it took a little bit more coordination to get that same feeling. But I think that, you know, I worked with the buyers really, really closely, you know, to select the right advertising styles. You know, the vendors would send us lookbooks beforehand. So we would have a pre-meeting. We would go over exhaustively the collection. And I think we had more time, as I was discussing with Joseph previously, to really, you know, experience the collection on our own time. Because typically, you know, we're in a car, you have like 30 minutes at the showroom, you got to like really quickly make, you know, sometimes a couple $1 million decision in this showroom in about an hour. So it was really nice to have the time, you know, to really walk through it slowly. You had a full, you know, fully dedicated showroom attendant that would walk you through the entire showroom in Milan, whether it be at Valentino or Brioni. So we saw, you know, our sellers that we normally see and the people that we love to see. It's like being in high school almost. You can see all your friends. But the one thing I do miss is, you know, all the street style. I really am inspired by the way that, you know, youth culture really takes, you know, these elements of high fashion and really make them their own. And I feel like you miss a lot of trends, whether it be, you know, styling or accessory trends, or you sort of miss those little details that, you know, some of the most creative people in the world can kind of push forward. And I feel like that was one thing that, you know, I do think the virtual market really can capture.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like do that, especially, and that itself, I think, is an experience. And you know, like you said, like now with Fashion Week again happening in the next few weeks, it's going to be interesting to see which ones are doing it virtually, how are they doing it socially distant, where they still have it in person, and still try and like create that mood and that vibe and that atmosphere. It's going to be a very interesting time this upcoming season. I still feel though.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one question I had in the appointments where I really enjoyed the virtual experience was, how can we share this with the customer? Because I think that, you know, we're so lucky, you know, working for Holt Renfrew and having the privilege to travel to some of these amazing places. But, you know, number one question people always ask me is like, oh my God, what's it like to be at a fashion show? Like, how do I get there? And that's the one thing that I think was so great about this experience, is that, like, you know, my mom could have sat in and seen on some of these collections. And I think, how can we share that experience with the customer, I think is going to be the next step that I think a lot of designers are going to have to think about.
I mean, I thought one of the best virtual shows that had, I think millions and millions and millions of people watched it live was Louis Vuitton in Shanghai. That was like one of, you know, it had such a great reach. And I think much, you know, they were able to amplify a collection much greater than they would have having a show in Paris. So, I think, a blend of having those away shows and, having markets experience a fashion show that normally wouldn't, I think is sort of a unique approach that can kind of create that buzzworthy content that the designers really need.
Yeah, there were quite a few shows from Paris Fashion Week as well that they were really like stories that you were watching, and a lot of them were just like videos, but at that point you felt like you were part of their imagination and story, and you almost wanted to be in that video and experience what they were experiencing, and you almost forgot that they were selling a product, but at the same time, like, oh, but now I want to be in this forest with that Dior dress, and I want to sit there and feel like a princess because they're doing it. So it's very possible, and that was very, very fun and interesting to like experience sitting in your bedroom. You know what I mean? On your bed, you don't even have to like dress up for it. So that was actually very, very interesting. Speaking of like designers and brands, and with all the shift that's happening, what can the consumers expect from Holt Renfrew in terms of kind of having an idea what sort of designers to see on the retail floor space?
So, I mean, I can speak, we placed a lot of new brands. We're really excited this season. I think, a lot of our buying criteria this season was focusing in on diversity and inclusion, sustainability. A lot of the brands like Prada had so many different elements of their collection that were sustainably sourced. For us, I think that's a really big initiative because, we want to cross merchandise and showcase this product, not only in its own, range, on a fixture, but we want to amplify that message because I think that it's something that's really important for the customer. And I think, people want to buy things that align with their values. And a lot of people really want to align with conscious products and conscious investments. So that was something that was really important for us. I think for us, it was really important to sort of create more accessible brands within our, within the entire store. Having pricing architecture that works, for some clients to attract new customers, and really having all of those great fashion items, from whether it be from Asics or New Balance that really can compete with with the Dior or with a Gucci sneaker. So for us, I think really it was just focusing in on all of these different voids that maybe we perhaps had and really thinking about how we can excite the customer and really just, cover a wide net this season. So we're really excited. I think we, for us, we're bringing in like a little sub matrix that's really inspired by skate and surfing culture, which is really exciting. And it ladders up to some of these key trends that we're seeing that are all about escape and, this sort of like 90s casual cool that we we love from California. But I think that, we're really excited, even though a lot of these brands, we didn't even really get to see them in person. We're excited to, showcase them to our customer. And I think, the interesting thing is, when customers shop online, I think that's the same sort of experience that we had as buyers and merchandisers and fashion directors. So, with all that lift and energy that we've been seeing and sales revenue from the online channel, I think, that's the way that we purchase the product. So hopefully that's the way the customer, they react to it, with all of the color and novelty that, we think translates well online.
Yeah, and I think for fall specifically, our buyers came back from a trip to Copenhagen, and you'll see a bunch of new Copenhagen designers on the floor. We're really working with the teams on cultivating more of that younger, more, very cool contemporary brands to come in. And I will say we are just at the start of it all. We're just really getting into some of the great brands that can be found at Holt's eventually. So we're always looking. That's part of our job is, we're sourcing, we're taking a look at the market, we're seeing what makes sense for the right time frame. So I think you'll definitely see a lot of that come in the stores in the next couple of weeks. And then as we embark on spring, a lot of these more smaller vendors are holding off to show the collection. Obviously, they're not going to do a pre-collection. because they're trying to just do one collection only. So we're seeing a lot in the next couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to it.
So with the way you're working going forward, you have your classic brands which you're going to work with, and some of the new brands that you guys are exploring and looking to work with. What are some of the trends we can expect from the industry and from Holtz in the spring summer for 2021?
I mean, well, I just finished market, so I guess I can speak to that. We saw tons and tons and tons of denim. I mean, denim on denim on denim on denim. Really beautiful dark indigo washes with the, Japanese selvage, which is, like that harder raw denim. I think we're seeing, this real casualization of dress codes continue for menswear specifically. Really love this idea, which we've been seeing for the past couple seasons, of this relaxed tailoring. So, these softer shoulders, roomier silhouettes, seeing a lot of pleated trousers and roomier trousers, sporty styles. My favorite trend though that we saw, and I hope that Joseph sees a lot in women so we can have a world up trend, but we're calling it like the new romantic. It's all about these furnishing florals with these soft brush knits and like pinks and really beautiful pastels. So really it's just like almost this has this romantic feeling to spring. Lots of really beautiful like poetic shirting and oversized shirting that, a guy that's like, a classic businessman could wear as a Zoom wardrobe, or someone that's a little bit more advanced and into streetwear can wear it almost as like a shirt jacket. So, tons and tons of that nice balanced blend between core updates and all of this idea of escape, and again, there's tons and tons of prints everywhere. Vacation, escape, California, those are sort of the key ideas that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely, what I've been seeing in the women's collections is this sense of like nostalgia. And I think, being at home and being able to kind of reflect on more of your at home wardrobe. Obviously, we're seeing more casualizations of fashions, but we're seeing lots of like retro knits. We're seeing a lot of the resurgence of more of these like memorable prints, whether it's from the 70s or the 90s. I think a lot of designers are kind of creating collections. I've only seen pre-collections, so I haven't seen like the jazziness of runway yet, but we're seeing a lot of like best of collections. And again, to your point, which we talked about a little bit earlier, is that idea of investment dressing. So, Balmain comes out with their signature blazer again, but in this like great nostalgic print or this like great leather fabrication. So I think we'll continue to see a lot of these motifs come through. And I think, again, in learning more about what our customer wants, we're able to also create and modify trends to what they want and they need. I don't think it's like, I think we're kind of moving away from the mentality of like, okay, this is what walked down the runway, so we have to call this a trend.
Right.
I think the customer now more than ever is at the pulse of, fashion, and is at the pulse of giving their direct feedback to a designer. And it's no longer, very much so like, this is the way it has to be. I think they're kind of helping us come up with it. So I think that kind of democratization of everything has been so great for us figuring out what we want to talk about, because at the end of the day, like, we're here to service them, and it's not just about what you see kind of like stomping down the runway.
I mean, but the exciting thing that we've even been seeing in the stores is, we just got our Stone Island collection, and they have these like really bright and bold, like fluorescent knits, and like those are the things that are like moving in menswear. So it's just really interesting because there's this like, there's this blend of guys getting like core updates, and then there's these guys that just want like, escape, and like they're these random things. They're like, oh no, we didn't buy enough. You've like sold out of this, random style that's like so very, very fashion oriented. So I think it's pretty interesting. We were reading this article from Vanessa Friedman. She's a New York Times fashion critic, and she was speaking about all of these different pandemics that have happened throughout the ages, whether it was the bubonic plague, the savings and loan crisis in the 1970s, or even the the 1918 flu. And after each one of these, there's this shift in silhouette and this sort of reawakening fashion renaissance that happens either with color, with silhouette, or with shape. and with all of these amazing details. So I think, right now we're in the midst of seeing people, create these core updates. But I think, this next season for fall 21, I think people are really going to want to burn their sweatpants, and they're not going to want to remember what time was like there. And I think we don't know what we're going to see, but I'm excited to see how people, incorporate fashion to really showcase that we're in a new time.
Yeah, I just love the idea of moving away from the Zoom wardrobe, as now we like call it. Literally, it's like, I mean, it was
Yes.
great for the past 6 months, but I mean, now it's just kind of like, can we buy beautiful things and not necessarily call it our Zoom wardrobe? So I'm hoping that shift is actually happening. And from what I'm hearing, I think that is where the direction of, buying and designers, and I think even what consumers would want is happening.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I have to say, like, we're seeing a lot of these, like, table toppers is what they're calling them. And it's like clothes for the top. But I have to say, like, just in my own personal experience, I was in the store recently and our shopper was like, Joseph, why are you buying all these pants? Like, who's wearing pants right now? And I was like, I need to buy pants so that it makes me think about what I'm wearing on top, because if I just buy a top, I'm gonna have like a closet full of tops and no bottoms.
Nothing to
So
wear
I
with
like
them.
am buying pants for the purpose of reminding myself that I need to like stop, like, you know what I mean, like just get into the groove of getting dressed up again, because it's so easy to just throw on, a jacket or a sweater and call it a day. But you know for us in our worlds and being in the fashion department, like it's full head to toe. Like it's we're speaking to customers and our employees about the wardrobing moments of the season. So I'm probably the only one that's been buying pants, but but it's so important.
I think there's also, the pandemic has, this situation has really, there's a lot of men in this world that are and women as well, that have that true, wear to work wardrobe. It's like a uniform, right? I feel like this, this situation has really thrown them off their game, because now they're like, wait, how do I inject elements of sportswear into my wardrobe? So for us, I think that's like the opportunity of how to speak to that customer and really educate them. Okay, the shirt jacket is the new blazer for your Zoom wardrobe, or the cozy cardigan is the new blazer. So I think it's all those, just teaching them, how to dress from Monday through Friday, not just, in that gray or navy suit and in your athleisure wardrobe on Sundays. So I think we have more opportunities to speak to our customers now.
So, a question for you guys. Holt's done some really awesome campaigns throughout the years. I just want to know how's the travel ban impacted working on photo shoots for the team?
So I can speak to a virtual photo shoot that we did, because we did the first one.
Mario's already laughing.
We we normally do a lot of our campaigns shooting in New York, just because of talent and model talent that is being there, and the cost of sometimes bringing them into Canada is more than the cost of the model itself. But we worked with a remote crew in New York. Normally we'd have a larger production, and I think we had the photographer who was dating the model, so you had that, bubble connection.
Right.
We had a styling assistant who was really just there to open packages and then properly give the product 3 days to quarantine, and then she would steam the product and then put it into another room where the talent had it. And then we had to provide, very clear guidelines on how to shoot the product based on, the vision we were trying to achieve. And then the photographer would text us pictures throughout the day being like, here you go, let us know if we're on track. And I think it allowed for us to kind of work collaboratively with a creative team abroad, whether it was in New York or in Toronto, because I know Mario was doing this virtually as well. It allowed us to, be very clear on what we needed, and then allowed the creatives to kind of come up with a vision and a mood of how they envisioned the product looking. And I have to say, we have done a lot of photo shoots over my time during at Holt's, and this is one of my favorites that we've ever produced. And it's so crazy because it was like created in a room with like 4 people.
Exactly.
I'm very excited to see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just say,
it comes out tomorrow.
Awesome.
We did for the men's portion, we were really fortunate enough to really use Canadian photographer, Canadian male talent. I'm American, so I was the only non-Canadian, I think, on set. There was 5 of us, so it was a skeleton crew, and we all had to respect social distancing. But it was really, really fun. I think the thing is we're so I think we're spoiled oftentimes to have these like giant crews create, our campaigns. And it was really interesting to, call in every sample, open every box, steam every item. I mean, we didn't, the model would dress themselves, and, there was just really minimal, we really tried to respect social distancing. But I think we got the same amount of output with a smaller team. And I think that sort of that idea of like resilience during this pandemic and that independence was something that I think it took us to have this photo shoot for me to really realize it doesn't really take, a large team sometimes to make something so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was really fortunate to have, such great photographer, great art director, and Joseph and our team, I think, is just so good and so talented. So it was really exciting to see the outcome of that with such a small team.
I'm excited to see these campaigns die. Like, I love photo shoots. I live for them. So I'm very, very excited to hear how this was like pulled off and like how it happened. And yeah, I personally can't wait. It's like a personal thing. I just can't wait right now.
That's Rashi's whole business.
Yeah, I think it's also been really interesting as we watch as other publications and retailers and stylists produce work. It's been really interesting to see how people are being creative during this time. That's like, I've never seen, so much creativity come through. And I think, again, a lot of these industries are being challenged to come up with new and innovative ways to speak to fashion. And it's not just about the glamour of these like $1 million production. I'm not saying ours was ever $1 million, but it's more about like, I think about like Vogue magazine editorials, which like, you have these like beautiful Annie Leibovitz sets, and you've got the most amazing models and celebrity talent. And then you have to think about like, okay, when you strip down to what you're actually trying to do, sometimes you get even more beautiful and more organic imagery that comes from it. So I think it's definitely been a great way, again, for all of us to reset and think about how these things get conducted.
I mean,
Yes.
I love these, like even Italian Vogue and Vogue's new features where they're showing you really unexpected subject matter. And it just seems like the retouching and all the airbrushing, it just seems like that isn't as important anymore. But it's about, it's not about the clothes, but it's about the person that wears them. And I think that's sort of something that we tried to replicate on this campaign. A lot of our talent and our subject matter, we really just had them be themselves in these settings, whether it be outdoor and studio. And I think we're really happy with the way things turned out. And I think that that's a great shift forward, that it's not, things aren't so, there's like a democratization of fashion, as Joseph had previously mentioned.
Yeah, like it's very much on the less is more aspect now with the photo shoots, I find. So it's a good shift, I think. I think it's actually now more real, more raw, and more like authentic, because we are working with very little to produce something even more beautiful and more consumer relatable, I find. And still keep that fantasy aspect to things as well. Okay, this is my favorite question I want to ask you guys, because I am originally Montreal, and I even worked at Haute Levis before. Actually, I worked at Haute Levis, and then it got bought out by Holt Renfrew, so I was still there during that time. How has the reopening been at this point? I can't wait to go back and just see it. So how's it been, and how's that experience?
I mean, the store is beautiful. I personally have not been to the opening of the women's department yet, but we have had some virtual walkthroughs, and I have to say it is, a Canadian landmark to go see. I don't know if that's like an overstretched comment,
Yes.
but it is
Not.
it is such a beautiful space. I think we have done a great job in respecting the original architecture and some of the great things that original Ogilvy building was really known for. In terms of the reopening of the store, I mean, the Ogilvy reopening followed all the same policies as our other stores, with the proper kind of safety and health protocols when it comes to reopening the store. But what sets the store apart from the others is that it's really all about that immersive retail experience. There's some really great mannequin displays that we've worked on with the visual merchandising team, who's done a great job. The footwear hall is out of control. There's just so many great elements to it. I haven't even been there yet. I remember when it was still like we were doing the demolition walkthrough, and we were all wearing like hard hats and like safety vests, and you now see this beautiful shrine to fashion in Montreal. It's truly spectacular, I have to say.
The men's store opened, I believe, last March, and I think Joseph was shooting something for Instagram, and I helped set up the men's floor with the men's merchants, and it was so fun to build a store in like 3 days. I mean, we merchandised everything with the teams. We set up all of the different shops, whether it be from like Balenciaga and Saint Laurent. And I mean, it was such an experience. We were so excited when it opened, but now it's been open for over a year. And Normand, our VP of the store, was saying that the customer now is shifted. He's so young. He's 18 to 25. And I mean, it's just like really brought in this new blood into that store, and we're super excited. I think the women's has really brought the traffic level up and really up to the game of that store, and we're seeing really, really great results and strong results with that store. It has beautiful light everywhere, and all of the shops are in the exterior, and then our own curated assortments are in the interior. So the shoppability factor of that store, I think, is just world class.
And I think the one thing, and I'm sure you can speak to this also, Rashi, is the spirit of the sales associates at the store is so enchanting. We just did a virtual store trend presentation to the store last week, and we were doing them during while the stores were closed during the pandemic also. And it is so refreshing to see everyone being like, "Hi guys," or like, "We haven't seen," like, you build a community of a family within the store you work at, and that kind of sentiment of just being able to witness that was super special. And it's not just from our Ogilvy store, it was really across all the stores from the network, where we were able to see a lot of our employees band together, get super excited about about even seeing their little like avatars on the Zoom chats that we would have with them, because they haven't seen or interacted with these people in months or weeks. So it's overall the sentiment of the store with Ogilvy and all the stores has just been super, refreshing and utterly Canadian, if I can say it in any other way. Like, everyone is just so, like, everyone sees the silver lining. Everyone is like just super excited and happy to be working and back in the store. So it's been really great.
I feel like a Montreal trip is in order.
I know. I really am like eager to go.
Sorry, Mario, you were saying?
I'm saying that store has like the best product assortment. Like, it's out of control. I mean, everything that I want to get this season is in Montreal already, so it's worth a road trip.
Yeah, guys, let's do it. Yeah. Let's just do it, because even at my time working there, it never felt like work. I just never wanted to leave that building, because no matter what floor you were at, you felt so special, and you wanted the customer to leave with a bag, and you wanted
Yeah.
them to feel, amazing. And the windows were always gorgeous. So I can only imagine now with all the changes and like all the shifts, how much more beautiful it can really be. And yes, Sauder, it's definitely a trip that has to be done.
There's
After hearing about it,
400 men's shoe options
Oh my
in that
goodness.
shoe floor.
He loves shoes, by the way, so that's the selling point there.
Almost
That's a huge selling point.
Yeah.
Anything men's clothing, I'm all about. So shoes definitely 400. Wow.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even anything close to that is incredible.
I can guarantee if like we were to throw him in there, he's not gonna come out for 2 days. Like we might have to get like security and like bring him out.
Absolutely, and I'll break my bank.
And it actually opens directly to the Four Seasons, so you can have a nice little cocktail afterwards. It's a nice little experience there.
Yeah, after being in a room full of 400 men's shoes and breaking the bank, I'm gonna need a drink for sure.
Mhm. And then you'll go buy another 400 shoes.
That's it. Exactly. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. This was awesome. Some great insight as to what's going on with Holt. Some great insight into the fashion industry. Being in your world, you guys have a great firsthand sort of insight into what's happening. It's great to be able to bring that to our friends in the industry to share, what the expectation is, what trends we're seeing, what sort of direction the industry is heading in. So, thank you so much for sharing your insight and knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having us. It was such a pleasure to kind of reflect on this experience because, we don't, a lot of us, go through it and we're just kind of trucking through day by day, but it's kind of invigorating to just kind of realize, oh, wow, we did all this in like 4 months. It's been a nice kind of reflection and a great way to look back on what we've done and move forward to what's kind of come through the future also.
Absolutely.
And our campaign launches tomorrow, so hopefully you guys let us know your feedback. We're excited for you to see it.
Absolutely.
We are.
Yes. We'll be checking it out right away. As soon as it's out, we'll be looking at it. That's for sure. So thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you again. We'd always love to welcome you back. Any sort of insight from you guys is always welcome to us and our listeners. So we'd love to welcome you back on the show at a future date that's appropriate for you guys to share. So, maybe 3 to 4 months or 6 months from now, things will be different and it'd be good to get your insight at that time too. So definitely would love to have you guys back.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Elevated Grapes, and we will see you next week. Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.